Hey guys, Greg here on the Vinyl Rundown, coming at you on a very cold weekend, even in Los Angeles. So this week I was thinking about this whole concept of psychedelic records. A lot of people on YouTube are getting into the so-called psych record phenomenon. I was looking through my collection to see what I had that might fall into that category, if anything. It's not something I listened to a lot of lately, but we have so many records I figured I had some. So then I pulled out something pretty interesting, and this record is from, I guess, from late 60s, Grassroots. Have you heard of them? They had a couple of hit songs, but the thing that's really interesting about them is their lead guitar player. Let's see if I can show you the picture. There he is, guy in the middle there. And I'll read you the credit. It says lead guitar by Creed Bratton. That's right. Creed Bratton, also a character on the Office TV show, one of our favorite TV shows. We've seen all 9 seasons, probably 2 or 3 times. Let me see if I can show you the photo on the back also. He's hiding behind that tree there. There he is, Creed Bratton. So the weird thing is, Creed Bratton was his name on the show also, but he had changed his name from William Charles Schneider was his original name. And then in the 60s, he went on this kind of journey of exploration to Africa and the Middle East, and experimented with a lot of drugs, learned to play the guitar, learned to sing, wanted to become an actor and a musician. Anyway, changed his name to Creed Bratton, and he got into this band called the Grassroots. And they had one big hit, which is on here, called Midnight Confessions. And the song Midnight Confessions was not on a studio album, it was on a single, but then it's on this album also. Creed Bratton, the character on The Office, is kind of based on him in real life a little bit. The whole thing with changing his name and changing his identity and involvement in drugs and the whole psychedelic era. There's a funny scene where he's talking about knowing how to get good tar heroin from the Taliban. So Creed Bratton in the 60s was really a child of the 60s, and actually he got kicked out of the band because he appeared on stage at the Fillmore totally wigged out on acid, couldn't play his instrument. He just basically stood on stage with his pants down for a long time, and ultimately the record label was not too happy about that and said, you know what, we need to bring in studio musicians to play on your records. And the Wrecking Crew, if you know who they are, played on a lot of studio records back then. They actually did the instrumentation on some of their records, and came to a mutual agreement that Creed probably wasn't a good fit for the band. And so he went on and did acting and various music stuff, and 20, 30 years later found himself as a hilarious character in The Office. All right, so that's the story of the Grassroots. But then I was going through my collection thinking, if I'm going to do a video on psych records, I need more than one. I'm looking through my record collection, and I come upon this record, Spirit, the 12 Dreams of Dr. Sardonicus. Pretty psychedelic name, right? So let's see if we can see the photo. Very psychedelic. And I wanted to give it a listen and see if it truly was as psychedelic as I thought the cover indicated. So, all right, I pull out the record, about to put it on the turntable, and then something weird happens. I stare at that album label, and I think, this is pretty trippy. I noticed something that kind of blew my mind. Went and showed that to my son, who's a big Office fan. I said, what do you think about this label, this record? And he said, oh, Art California? Sounds like Robert California, the boss on The Office. Well, that's a kind of a funny coincidence, but in actuality, that's Randy California, who was the other member of the band. He actually died in, I guess, the late 90s, drowned in Hawaii, trying to save his son from drowning. But he was one of the core members of the band Spirit, and his family, I think, was the ones that sued Led Zeppelin over the melody, Stairway to Heaven, which is kind of loosely based, not based on, but similar to their song Taurus. I said, no, not Our California. Look at the other name. And that's when we were both freaked out. The other name on the album label is J. Ferguson. And that freaked me out. Who's J. Ferguson? J. Ferguson was a core member of the band Spirit, and later on in the 70s he had kind of a cheesy pop song called Thunder Island. That's how most people know about him. But if you're really a fan of The Office, you know that The Office theme song was written by and played by the one and the very same J. Ferguson. So that is a very weird karmic coincidence, because the one album that I pulled out of my collection that I thought I'll feature in my Psych Rock video happened to have J. Ferguson and Creed Bratton back to back. So, but well, I did give this a listen, and there's some kind of traditionally pop songs on here, but there's a couple of sort of psycho weirdo sound effecty, trippy, dreamy songs on here. So I mean, they definitely were considered a psychedelic band, but it's part of it's pop music and part of it is a little bit freak out stuff. So Spirit, 12 Dreams of Dr. Sardonicus, and the Grassroots, starring Creed Bratton. 2 records, both connected to The Office TV show. I think that's about it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing and let me know what you think of the video. And we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.